For the second straight season, the Kings are the 9 seed in the Western Conference. It's been a messy season. There's been a lot of disappointment, but here we are, hosting a play-in game in Sacramento. There is still a chance of playoff basketball in Sacramento. There is going to be a win or go home game inside of Golden One Center. And that's the type of thing that hasn't happened very much in my lifetime as a Kings fan. So I don't want to take it for granted, despite the expectations for this season being a lot higher. But to get to the playoffs, the first challenger that stands in the Kings' way is the Dallas Mavericks. Two teams going up against each other that both traded their franchise players mid-season. A lot of similarities can be drawn between these two teams with trading the players for kind of older, still star players, but not quite as good. Also, some untimely injuries for both teams. So I think it's very fitting that this is the 9-10 game. One game, win, or your season is over. Here are my 5 keys to the Kings extending their season. The first key is the transition battle, and I'm mostly looking at it from the perspective of how can the Kings generate transition opportunities? How can they get easy buckets in transition? Because the half-court offense, while sometimes it can be good, it's also pretty inconsistent. And so there's 2 parts to this, with one being, can the Kings force turnovers and capitalize on fast break opportunities to get very easy offense? And then 2, can the Kings just generally keep the pace of the game high? The starting lineup that the Mavericks have been going with at the end of the season, when they finally got mostly healthy, was Klay Thompson, Naji Marshall, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, and Derek Lively. Off the bench, they got some pretty nice players: Daniel Gafford, Spencer Dinwiddie, Max Christie, Caleb Martin, Dante Exum, a few other guys. But my point in looking at this lineup, especially the starting lineup, is where's the ball handling, right? Where's the point guard? Without Luka, now without Kyrie, they don't have a point guard in that starting lineup. And off the bench, I mean, it's not much better. You have Spencer Dinwiddie, you have Dante Exum. I mean, those aren't exactly the guys that I want to rely on a ton. And so if you thought the Kings situation was bad without a point guard, even with Malik Monk out, this is even worse because the Kings still have DeMar DeRozan. The Kings still have Domantas Sabonis. In the Mavericks' last 5 games, not counting the last game of the season where they sat a bunch of guys, they have had 17 turnovers, 19, 15, 17, and 13. This is a team that the Kings can turn over and score on the fast break. And the Kings have one of the best weapons to score on the fast break, to score in transition in the entire league. Maybe the best weapon in the entire league in Zach LaVine. He's one of the most efficient transition players in the entire league. Using his athleticism, his speed, his finishing ability, also his 3-point shooting. We know that sometimes the Kings' half-court offense can get bogged down, especially with no Malik Monk to handle the ball, to get into pick and rolls. So it's going to be necessary for the Kings to dial up the defensive pressure, force turnovers through Keon Ellis, maybe Devin Carter, and get some easy offense. And then even when they aren't forcing turnovers, they still need to keep the pace high. And that's mainly through Domantas Sabonis. Being able to get rebounds, go coast to coast. That's one of Sabonis's biggest strengths. Getting the ball off the glass and immediately pushing. Creating cross matches in transition. Finding 3-point shooters early before the other team can set their defense. That's going to be super important. So you're pairing Sabonis's ability to push with all of LaVine's transition ability. That's where the Kings need to find a good amount of offense. We can't get lulled into this slow isolation offense, especially in the fourth quarter. The Kings have the tendency to get slow, to get isolation heavy. And so it's going to be on DeMar as well to realize he needs to push, to realize he needs to get off the ball. Now, moving on to the second key of the game. And for me, the second key is just 2 players on the Mavericks that I think could be X factors in this game. And those 2 players are Naji Marshall and PJ Washington. The Kings need to be able to keep these guys out of the paint. For the past 3 seasons, the Kings have really struggled to contain these big, strong, quick wings. And they've struggled to do that because this Kings roster itself has lacked those types of wings. And they tried to address that at the trade deadline, bringing in Jake LaRavia. But now Jake LaRavia is injured. We don't know if he's going to be able to play in this game. If he does, how many minutes can he play? Is he going to be rusty? And so these types of wings can take advantage of the Kings defense, get into the paint. The last time the Kings played the Mavericks, Naji Marshall got to the paint at will. 18.6 assists, 7 for 13 from the field. Now, a lot of those points were when the game was already in hand, but the Kings still had a solid lineup out there, and he exploited that weakness. Naji Marshall also was a part of that Pelicans team last season that the Kings went 0-6 against, and they went 0-6 to the Pelicans because the Pelicans had a bunch of big, strong, quick wing players that really exploited the Kings on both ends. In the month of March, Naji Marshall had a stretch of 12 games, averaging 23.5 points per game. This is a guy that if you let him especially get into the paint, get going into the paint, he can kill you. As for PJ Washington, in his one game versus the Kings this season, he dropped 28 points. On his career, he averages about 19 points per game versus the Kings. With Charlotte, he was always a Kings killer. And so if the Kings don't come out with the necessary physicality, they could be bullied by these guys. And if the Kings maybe decide to go to a double big lineup with Domantas Sabonis and Jonas Valanciunas to try to counter that physicality, then you're banking on the Mavericks missing from the outside. You're banking on not getting exploited due to the lack of speed you're putting out there defensively. You would probably have to go to a zone defense. And so I have a lot of questions about if the Kings go to that double big lineup. The Kings perimeter defenders need to be constantly harassing ball handlers, not letting these guys get comfortable and get going downhill. Because if they get comfortable getting into the paint, then it could be a very long game for the Kings. My third key to this game is the Kings' X factor, and that is Keegan Murray. For the last really 3 years since he was drafted, Keegan Murray has been the Kings' X factor. He's been the ultimate X factor just for the franchise. A lot has been put on his development, especially when the Kings decided to not get any wings to pair alongside him. He's had to do all the defending 1 through 5, literally, while also being asked to develop as an offensive player, not just be a three-point shooter, be able to attack off drives. And so now, with what happened at the trade deadline, with De'Aaron Fox gone, now more than ever, he is the X factor for the Kings. His development decides how far the Kings go. Through December of this season, Keegan had shot 28.6% from 3. After December, he shot 38.4% from 3, a massive difference. This is how it always goes with him. All 3 seasons, he starts slow, he heats up. If he had been shooting better at the start of the season, maybe things go a little bit different. There were so many games where we just needed to hit a couple more threes and not shoot 20% from 3 every game. But now he has the chance to make up for that. Last year in the play-in, he did a similar thing, going 8 for 13 from 3 against the Warriors, scoring a team-high 32 points. And that's why that game was so easy for the Kings against the Warriors, because when Keegan is playing well offensively, he opens up so much for everyone else. And it isn't just his three-point shooting. We've seen him evolve this season as a transition player, using his strength to get to the basket and finish. He has the ability to take advantage of mismatches in the half court and keep teams honest about who they guard him with. When other teams want to send their best wing defenders at DeMar and Levine, right? They want to hide someone on Keegan. He can take advantage of that. He's shown the ability to both shoot the 3, get to the rim off the dribble, go to a floater, go to a step back midi. The problem is the consistency. Keegan has the tendency to fade out of games. He becomes a non-factor offensively. He's been tremendous all season defensively, but he has the ability to exert his will on a game offensively, especially when the other team is guarding him with maybe not so great of a defender. And so we really need to see him exert his will on a game. Take pressure off DeMar. Take pressure off Levine, especially when certain bench units are in, when we need a little bit of scoring. When Sabonis is out of the game, things become tougher. We need him to step up. The fourth key to the game is bench production. I don't expect the Kings to win the battle of the benches, especially when it comes to points. I think the Mavs have too many guys that can score, that can do other things. They have a talented bench. And it's why if Kyrie was healthy, this could be an extremely dangerous team, but Kyrie isn't healthy. And so the Kings just have to find a way to play even, especially when Sabonis is out of the game. Our bench just has to come in and not lose us this game. I expect the Kings to go 8 deep with Trey Lyles, Jonas Valanciunas, and Devin Carter off the bench. We could see some Jake LaRavia, like I said, if he comes back. But, I'm not banking on that. At times, late in this season, we've seen the Kings go 8 deep in the first half, but then only go 6 deep in the second half, playing Zach LaVine an insane amount of minutes and other guys as well. And they've done that because Devin Carter has had his rookie moments of not being great, understandable. But also because Jonas Valanciunas, sometimes he gets played off the floor defensively because of his lack of mobility. So when things didn't go well, it's just Trey Lyles contributing off the bench. And so the hope is this doesn't happen. I think it's a solid matchup for Jonas Valanciunas. I think it's one where he shouldn't get played off the court. I think he can thrive in this matchup. But we need Lyles to come in, maybe knock down a 3 or 2. Grab offensive rebounds, just be an overall hustle player, give everything he's got. Devin Carter, a lot of the same. Come in, pick up full court, be an effort player, come up with loose balls. And then we need Valanciunas to come in and maybe give us a little scoring off the bench, right? You can't have no scoring off the bench. He needs to give us a little bit of scoring, grab some offensive rebounds, and I think we'll be okay. And then the final 5th key to this game is the Kings' play-in experience. That is right. There is no way this team can lose with 6-time play-in participant Jonas Valanciunas, the all-time leader in both points and rebounds in play-in game history. This is a legacy game for Jonas Valanciunas. DeMar also has play-in experience. His daughter is a play-in legend, DeAr DeRozan. Hopefully she's there to scream and make the Mavericks miss some free throws. LaVine has dropped 39 in a play-in game before. Keegan, like I said earlier, dropped 32 last year in the play-in. Keon had an amazing game against the Warriors in the play-in. Of course, Sabonis and Lyles have experience in the play-in. We have way too much experience in the play-in to lose this game, okay? The Kings have been a middling team for far too long to lose the championship of middling teams. That's what the play-in is. This should be our expertise, okay? No, but in all seriousness, it will be interesting to see how much of an impact the play-in legend Jonas Valanciunas can have. Will the Kings go to a double big setup against a Mavs team that has 3 centers? I'm counting Anthony Davis as a center that they play. Can he provide that offense off the bench? When Sabonis goes out, we like to play through him. So can he make that positive impact in a way running the offense off the bench a lot of times? Or does he get played off the floor because of his defense? It's a Mavs team with not the most shooting, and like I said, with the big guys that he can bang with down low, but I am a little bit concerned about the lob threats. I mean, we saw the Suns exploit it with Iguodala, and so hopefully he doesn't get played off the floor, but if he does, it'll be Trey Lyles that has to step up and bang with these centers of the Mavs. Physicality is going to be super important, especially against Anthony Davis, because we know that sometimes Anthony Davis doesn't always love getting super physical. Maybe that's just, a regular season thing. He doesn't want to do it for 82 games at the center position, but it'll be interesting to see the lineups the Kings go with to try to counter these bigger lineups for the Mavs and to try to limit the impact of AD. I feel like AD sometimes is the superstar version of Keegan Murray in that he can fade in and out of games. And if the Kings are able to set the tone early, make him uncomfortable, then maybe you make him a non-factor offensively. Keep him to the perimeter, keep him out of the paint. But if you let him get comfortable, then you could be in a ton of trouble because he's still, when he's on his game, a top 10 player in this league. And so we know the history that Sabonis and Anthony Davis have, but Anthony Davis finally started winning some games against Sabonis with the Lakers this season. But we need to turn that back around, back to Sabonis dominating that Anthony Davis matchup. So anyways, those are my 5 keys to the Kings playing game versus the Mavericks. Let me know what you think the biggest key is for this play-on game, who you think has the advantage, who's going to win. And that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. As always, I'll be right back here after this game to recap it. Hopefully it won't be the last game of the Kings season, but no matter what, I will see you guys then. Peace.